rotate superiorly or elevate superiorly, and right, I'm just going up this way. Just on and off here. Okay? That's okay? All right, what did we cover yesterday? Hip adductors. 2 joint, 1 joint? Let's just get those. We're getting there. Yeah, why don't you stay there? So, uninvolved. So, adductor, we're going to go, let's do the uninvolved side up. So what are we feeling here? We're just kind of walking that leg up. We should get to 45 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So 245 degrees. If it isn't, we'd stretch it. That's a 2 joint, right?
45.
Should we get more or less adduction?
More.
More, right? So we would just, this is the test part, okay? The treatment, you could leave that right up, and it's basically the same thing. Find that, they would adduct, right? And we would take it to the new barrier. 1 joint. Oh, sorry, you should stabilize the opposite ASIS, thank you. And same thing, okay? Anything I'm forgetting there? Any rotation? You probably could tweak that a little bit.
You might want to use your other leg.
You want to what?
You might want to use your other leg.
I don't know if I could do that. I don't know. Whatever's comfortable for you, okay? All right, so any floor stretch, any kind of standing?
For adductors, I kind of go do adductor / medial inferior hip capsule. So if you have a patient using the staircase, so you want from a solo stretch, and just basically turn it around so that you're here. 2 headlights facing forward, lean back. That's your medial inferior / adductor stretch. You can also do that in here if they can tolerate it. This position, people will want to turn in and be like, oh, I don't feel nothing. Keep the hips forward, knee open, and it's actually a pretty good stretch.
That's a good one.
And I do that a lot. I like floor stuff because, like I said, it shortens the chain and you can't cheat because you can get someone who moves really well through their ankles and you don't feel it in their hips at all.
Figure 4. Can we do a resistance like a PIR in figure 4? Couldn't we do that? I always think if they were supine lying, are we getting a different group there by adding some external rotation? Yeah, probably, but I think you could probably tweak it that way. Okay, hamstring. Hamstring. Let's just do the test. So I guess they would have this on the test. Let me know if your hip is okay. And what are we doing? Just trying to make sure that the knee is in extension, full extension, and fine for that type. Okay?
No, some self.
Oh. So there we are, right?
Yeah.
So we could do our PIR, and that, they would resist. We could drop this down. And kind of when the class was starting or after your test, I was showing you the different ones. But here would be the resistance here. I'm going to want you to push your leg down into my hand. I'm going to resist. So if you push down, so our basic PIR. And then we would take it to the new barrier, okay? And any more of those aggressive stretches. I think that was it on that, right? Hamstring stretch.
The way I personally stretch hamstrings, because I'm sensitive to neural tension, because we see so many back swings again. Hands behind the leg, with or without dorsiflexion, depending on how tight they are. And it's just a really nice, gentle stretch. I don't have them hold it, and I would just do on and off. We don't do a whole lot of, we try to keep our stretching a little bit more dynamic.
Nerves don't like to be kept stretched, so static stretch on the hamstring,
And
a
when
lot of our patients will not like, and we're not going to want to do it to them. Because we do see a lot, I'm glad you brought that up, we do see a lot of patients with this and ridiculous symptoms with neurotension. So.
Hamstrings are secondary to neural tension, so, and once again, it's a lot of pain referral from the back. So you'll feel pain and tightness into the hamstrings, which isn't true. Hamstring tightness is just kind of secondary.
You see that a lot. You think it's hamstring. It's
and then there's other stretches would just be yours maintaining neutral lumbar spine. Once again, watch how high they are. People like to stretch their hamstrings out because it feels good. We'll send them home with worse back pain and more neural symptoms. So we kind of call it a waiter stretch. Stern them up, and as soon as they feel it, if you want to add more dimension into it, you can windshield washer the foot. This creates a frontal plane variation of a sagittal plane stretch. And you could also, if you ever watch Gary Gray or follow any sports medicine, you could also abduct or rotate the hips as well. So
that's good. We good on that? Let's just do that piriformis, okay? You're back. We're going to do, well, the video showed below 90 degrees. I think they actually did it on the opposite side, so let's, I don't want to do that yet. I'm just going to go through the motions then. So there's going to be a long axis load through the axis of the tibia, right? We're going to internally or externally rotate. Internally rotate, okay? So pressure's there. You even get some posterior capsular stretch there. And where is their resistance? Inside of the ankle, right here. They're pushing in.
For
Right?
external
For
rotation.
external rotation. Okay? While I'm applying this pressure and load down the axis of the femur, okay? That's it. Okay, I'm not spending a lot of time trying to find the actual spot here, but then you can come on, we'll do this on this side. Above, I can externally rotate, come up, knee to the opposite shoulder here. I could use my forearm to add a little bit more of that. She probably feels a little bit more when I externally rotate more. And coming up there, resistance could be here and at the lateral aspect of her ankle into my forearm, right?
Either one.
I don't think we really didn't do that much. I think we did it quickly. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
So,
definitely. That's actually what my home stretch is that I give my patients. I get them to put 2 hands behind, in front of their knee, pull towards the opposite shoulder, and if they can free up their other arm, they grab a hold of the ankle and pull a little bit more to external rotation. That's one variation. That's a Greenman technique.
you can cross over, reach behind you.
Right. Second variation, it's called a figure 4. I would call this kind of like a level 1. You want to watch what the pelvis is doing because you get a lot of hip hiking. If they can tolerate a little bit more, you thread the hands through and you add a little bit more flexion to that. Once again, sort of watching in what that knee is doing. Another variation, seated, crossing leg over, up nice and tall, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, I don't feel nothing. Make sure they maintain their lordosis, and it's a push down through. If you want a little more posterior capsule, you could actually rotate. You try to tell them from the hip to the same side, and you'll get a different stretch technically going either way. There's also, if you have a really active population, if anybody does yoga or anything like that, it's called a pigeon pose. We're gonna go down on the floor. It's in quad, and what you would do is you would cross over one leg, bring one leg out in front of you, and you're sitting back.
Have you ever done this? It's a great stretch.
And you feel it through your rear end, and people will tell you different things. Your foot is actually supposed to be, if you have somebody who's very flexible, like a dancer, somebody who does yoga or Pilates, the leg is actually supposed to be square to the body, and that's terrible. It's just an aggressive stretch. But there are many different ways to stretch a piriformis, and it's pretty important also. So.
How about just, we haven't covered this, how about a gastroc soleus for the last time?
Okay.
Okay, maybe even just a standing stretch, kind of that two-part, yeah.
So, gastroc stretching. Once again, you want to make sure it's not subtalar joints. 2 hands on the wall, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Basic stretch. So this is your sagittal plane stretch. If you want to add a little bit more dimension to it, frontal plane. You would wiggle the hips sort of side to side, which is kind of nice. For example, if you need a little femoral gapping or something like that. And they tend to bias one side.
And you're going to feel most of that in the belly of the muscle.
Correct.
Right there.
So a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, I don't feel nothing. It's like, okay, find your stretch and then tweak it. And if you want transverse plane, this leg comes up, make sure you're doing it with the right population and its rotation. Really, really good for runners. Runners tend to like those. And one of the things that couples nicely with the hip stretches, gastroc, all of it is lunging, because lunging is a nice kind of functional stretch, but it's also strengthening. It puts it all together. So
I think we got it. Any questions?